The mounted the flame adapter with lilibit amang tang. Its wax duck and call momoy ayor ng moat was ready for his night fragmentation. He flapped his wings and off it went. It started following a speck of light. He saw at a distance. The moose gave me permission on the lovely but bare cold evening. Momoy flame passed, so he called red. It's at sea. Nothing after that he heard a familiar voice calling from behind. It's mother Maher, gaping and patting you can be out toning albeit yourself. Let me go. Wait, you say, she said, tell comes here. Brief on thank you, mother. Let's go. She'd been up like it's solar. Wipes be a good sorry of it. Momoy grade grew more and more correct at the drew close to the light. At last the good close to the light. Momoy collide help both Amer dad lovely sing of the flame burning for the holy lamp releasing the Momoy as mother Maher manner if not the to fly to close to the plum, but your mouth was so attracted to the light and warmth of the holy lamp. The air did not meet her hair. A base run the plum he plum. Final hit home red. So near the from the his wings got but nil. His mother get momoy. But what the hot? But what the hot? The mood and the flame
The learner mispronounced "end" as "ed."
adapter with lilibit amang tang.
The learner substituted the word adopted with adopter and substituted the word by with bid.
It's wax duk and call.
At the first sentence, the learner mispronounced it as its. He also mispronounced the words was, dusk, and cold as wax, duk, and call.
Momoy ayor ng moot
The learner said yornang instead of young and moat instead of mot.
was ready for his night prag.
The learner mispronounced the word nightly as night and the word flight as Prague.
Treasure. He flapped his wings
The learner mispronounced excited as etresio and fluffed as plapter.
and off it went.
The learner substituted the word he with the word hit and mispronounced went as wint.
It started following
The learner substituted the word he with hits.
a speck of light is he saw at a distance.
The learner substituted he with his, and he eventually corrected it at his second attempt. The learner said saw instead of saw. The learner mispronounced the word distance as distasti.
The mouse give me
The learner substituted the word that with the and mispronounced the word must as most.
parmem on the lovely but bear call evening.
The learner said warmth instead of warmth. The learner substituted the word this with the and mispronounced the word lovely as lovely. The learner mispronounced also the words very, cold, and evening as ber, col, and evening.
Momoy flame pass.
The learner read these words as flame and pass.
So he called red. It's at sea.
The learner mispronounced could as call. The learner substituted the word reach with red. The learner mispronounced the word it as its and the word once as atse.
Not nothing after the that
The learner repeated the word not twice. He also mispronounced the words long and after as ling and after. The learner initially read it as the and corrected it in his second attempt.
He heard a familiar voice calling from behind.
The learner mispronounced heard as her. He also mispronounced the word familiar as familiar. The learner said calling instead of calling, and bidhid instead of behind.
It's what's its mother in my hair.
The learner mispronounced the words it and was as its and what's. He also substituted the word his with hits.
Gaping and patting.
The learner said gapping and patting.
You can be out
The learner mispronounced Kent as canty.
toning albeit yourself.
The learner mispronounced the words tonight and all as tonit and al. He also substituted the word by with bid. The learner said yourself.
Let me go. Right you
The learner mispronounced the words let and with as light and white.
say she said tell comes here. Brief.
The learner initially pronounced the word she as se and eventually corrected it at his second attempt. The learner mispronounced it as tell. The learner mispronounced also the words catching as cats and repeated the word her twice.
Thank you, mother.
The learner said on.
Let's go. She the bin of like
The learner mispronounced let's as lits and see as she. The learner substituted that with the. The learner substituted beam with bin and eventually corrected it at his second attempt.
it's solar. Wipes be a god.
The learner mispronounced it as its. The learner initially said sur and then surler at his second attempt. He unsuccessfully corrected himself. The learner said whites instead of wood.
Sorry. Of it.
The learner mispronounced source as sowe.
Normal. Grade. Agree. More. And more.
The learner mispronounced grew as grade and inserted he grade after the word grew.
Correct. At the drew close to the light.
Instead of curious, the learner said corix. The learner substituted the words as and they with at and the. The learner mispronounced closer as close.
At last the good close to the light.
The learner substituted the word they with the and mispronounced got as good.
Normal. Con collide. Help both Amer. Dad. Lovely. Sing
The learner initially said kunt, then kulint. The learner mispronounced but as both and the word admire as admira. The learner mispronounced sight as sink.
The flame burning, burning, for the holy lamp.
The learner mispronounced the words burning, brightly, and from as borning, bringing, and pon. The learner also mispronounced the word oil as oli and repeated it twice.
Realizing the
The learner initially said re and then realizing. The learner substituted the word this with the.
momoy is mother, ay maher, manner, if not the ito, fly,
The learner initially said mother, then maher, and at his third attempt he said manner. He unsuccessfully corrected himself. The learner omitted the word warned and substituted the word him with hid. The learner also substituted to with the and successfully corrected himself at his second attempt.
to close to the plum,
The learner said plum.
but the your mouth,
The learner mispronounced bot as bot. The learner also mispronounced the words young and mot as yong and mot.
was so attracted to the light
The learner initially said and then trusted and successfully corrected himself.
and warmint of the holy lamp, the air.
The learner initially said wa and then warment at his second attempt. The learner mispronounced again the word oil as oli. The learner substituted that with the and the word he with her.
Did not meet here, my hair. A base,
The learner mispronounced the words mind and his as meet and here. The learner omitted the s in mothers. The learner mispronounced advice as a base.
run,
The learner said atran.
and run the plum. He plum.
The learner substituted the word round as run. The learner said the word flame as plum. The learner mispronounced flew as plum.
Final. Hit home red. So ner.
The learner omitted the suffix ly in the word finally. The learner substituted the word he with hid. The learner mispronounced hovered as homred.
The from the his wings got but nil.
For the third time, the learner mispronounced again the word flame as plam. The learner substituted dot with the. The learner mispronounced burn as barned.
His mother get momoy. What the hot.
The learner substituted the word hag with get. The learner mispronounced who as bought and the word was as what. The learner omitted the word badly. And the learner also substituted the word hurt with hat.